reason that I called though, or wanted to talk was I've been reading a little bit of Osho
Oh yeah.
on, yeah, yeah, just kind of a lot of stuff on relationships and relating and well, love, generally speaking. And
Yeah.
I don't know, like he talked a lot about what love. Yeah, I was, I guess, like I was just becoming very. These past few days, I've just become very cognizant of the fact that I don't know. I mistaken love and attachment. Like I don't know. It's almost that what I've been taught all my life to be
Yeah.
love is actually, you know,
Yeah.
attachment. The possessiveness and
Yeah.
desire and jealousy, expectations, all that stuff. Not just from lovers, but also family as well.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah. I don't know if you like love is such a varied word,
yeah.
like, because this whole notion of being in love, like you can't really sustain being in love. So like some
Hmm.
people say it's like a being in love is like a chemical reaction that happens in the brain,
Hmm.
which you get for the first 2 years in relationship in order to produce children. And they say it's a physiological reaction that happens, and it makes you a bit goo goo
Hmm.
gaga.
Yeah.
Um, and maybe that has some truth in it, like it produces strong chemical like draw attraction to the body. Um, and then some people maybe see love as a way of stopping them feeling so lonely,
Hmm.
so isolated and lonely, and it
Yeah.
fulfills like a big hole. But it's not a sustained thing because everything that we think and feel, so even if you fall in love with someone, those chemicals aren't being released all the time, or those thoughts or those feelings aren't being released all the time. There's something that comes and goes in waves. They're not like a fixed thing. So we're always in flux. So the question always is like, who is it that's in love? Like the body mind is having reactions to the other person, but there isn't actually this thing of somebody being in love and meeting your soulmate. It's like an impossibility. But it doesn't mean that you can't meet someone and spend the rest of your life with someone. It does seem that our bodies are like set up to do that type of thing, but it's not a fixed thing. And often what we're doing is we're living in a story of what we tell ourselves to love to be. So we're repeating a story of meeting the soulmate or meeting this perfect person or meeting um, someone that you can spend the rest of your life with. And all of that is useful in a way because it helps us find someone in which we can do that with. But it's also a really untrue thing. It's not a fixed thing, and we take it so seriously in our society that it's such a serious thing that we've got to do. And from my experience, that I only really could truly be in love with someone, from my interpretation of being in love, after this shift happened. That my personality just had too many traumas or too many ideas around being in relationship, and it couldn't really be in love. And to me, what being in love was this connection to who I am, and then looking at the world in love, and then having this one person that I could celebrate that with. It was like expressed love with, like I couldn't go around like kissing and telling how wonderful like my mum was or my dad or my friend. Whereas when you meet someone, you have this one person in which you can express that with, and that's really beautiful thing. And that's as far as really what I can put into words being in love is, or what my relationship with being in love with is. And then with that person you can create a life, but that's more of a practical thing, and that's more of just a joy, a side effect of it, of like creating a life and having someone that you share the jobs and share the routine with and share the money with, and have kids if you want to.
That sounds like a much more functional definition than I've than I've heard from before. But yeah, it's
I really like Osho though for how radical he is at pointing things out. Like I'm not sure what you're reading about what he says, but he can be so hardcore, which can be really good about with the brain. Like I've heard him give talks. I don't think I've ever read his books, but I used to listen to his talks when I was at his ashrams, and I'd hear him give talks on really like deconstructing it and saying that all everyone wants to do is fuck, and you should just fuck your heads off.
Yeah.
And I think all of that's great for breaking down on the human level, like what your brain has built up around these ideas. And then other times I've heard him talk about monogamy. Like I think he used to change depending on the day. What he felt.
He really, I mean, yeah, I've never really, my introduction with him was via books, and I mean, I feel like he changed like within the span of a page.
Yeah.
Like he'll contradict himself in the span of a page depending on who he's talking to. But I mean, yeah, but there is a, I don't know, but at the same time it makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah. I think basically it's you go through this phase of just seeing that everything isn't true. Everything, what you think about this life and what you feel about this life, until the mind or the body mind relaxes enough to see different possibility. Like everything isn't true. Everything. Like even the cup that you're drinking from now, or the room that you're sitting in, or any story that you're on a planet, that you're in a globe, that you're alive, that you're speaking to me. And nothing is true. There are just thoughts that appear, and then here we are. And that here we are is so vulnerable when we begin to see beyond thoughts. The body's meant to have thoughts. You're meant to distinguish between drinking poison and drinking water. But it's not fact. Like I've even met people along the spiritual path, and I'm not advising anyone to do this, but I've met people along, like I remember meeting one woman who decided she was going to put this to experiment. I've never done this and I'm not recommending it at all, but she decided to drink poison to see if it was all mind made. Like to see if like that sounds really crazy, and like my mind is really crazy. Like my mind believes that anything's possible, and so she believed with all her heart that the poison wouldn't affect her, and it didn't affect her. And I'm not recommending people to do that, because most people believe that the poison would affect them or would hurt them. But she wholeheartedly believed, and she wanted to prove it. Like she wanted to see if that was true, if she believed something with all her heart, if what would happen practically. And so she did it. She did all types of things. Like she ate bacteria that she was told she shouldn't eat. And this sounds really crazy, but to me this is maybe something that I was talking about with the facade thing. Like I don't think I present how crazy I am on the internet well enough. Like I really believe that's possible. But I don't think that people should try it, because I don't think that many people's minds open enough. And I think if you believe that the poison will hurt you, it will hurt you. If you believe the bacteria will hurt you, it will hurt you. But I've met people that have done these types of things, and it's and seen them do really crazy things and nothing happens to them. I don't know how we got onto that.
No, I mean, it's fascinating, and that's also something that I've been kind of dealing with, I'm still constantly trying to, I guess I see this habit of going to the mind for what is true, what is me.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it seems, but I mean, I can walk it back and like, okay, well, yeah, I don't know that this is true. Um,
Yeah.
this isn't, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can walk it back and it'll pop, but yeah, it just seems awfully persistent, I guess. And
Yeah.
yeah, I guess I am curious though, the whole thing of persistence. Is it like, do I need to read into it any more than that? Like, oh, this is just a persistent thought, or maybe it's an indication that I haven't seen something,
Um,
you know? Um,
I don't think you need to make a judgment either way. Like if in the next moment you decide to explore it more, then go with that.
hmm,
And if you see it in the next moment as just thought, I don't think you have to make a rule of how to behave. I
right.
think that will naturally and organically
Yeah,
like appear
yeah. Hmm,
of like for the moment. Like, so if after this phone call you decide that you've got to investigate this more, then have an investigation, then later on and really trusting that everything, our whole world is created by what we believe on the human level. So what your mind believes, but you're not in control of that. It's even a belief that you're in control of it. Like it's something that's happening. So if your mind believes that this world looks a certain way, then it will look a certain way. But that's come from thousands of years of evolution within that dream. Isn't that really weird? But
yeah,
it's like that's what your parents believed and your grandparents believed, and so that's what's being passed on to you through genetics and then social conditioning. So that's what your brain believes. So it goes back to that. Um, like I always found this really amazing, and maybe I quote it wrong or I'll get it wrong slightly, but about when something like Columbus or when people came over to America on boats, and they went to tribal areas where they'd never seen boats before. They'd maybe seen little boats, but they'd never seen the big boats like um, like Europeans had. And because they'd never seen them and they didn't have a concept of them, they couldn't actually see the boat.
hmm.
So they
I've heard that,
couldn't.
yeah.
Yeah, and so what they did see was they saw particular formations in the water, and then eventually they saw the people coming from the water, and then I think eventually they maybe saw the boat, but at first they couldn't see the boat. And it's kind of like in this environment now, our brain is perceiving what it needs and what it trains and what it is vital for your survival in this particular dream, or in this particular reality, whatever you want to call it. But it's not. There's like anything can happen. If your brain changes, the world will change. The world and the brain are the same. Like in a way, you're walking around in a big brain, and
Like
we have
God's brain.
yeah. Actually, it is God's brain on the ultimate level, but it's appearing as your brain, like um, the way that your brain is seeing the world. But on an ultimate level, it's God's brain because God creates the brain. So we have like a collective reality in which we see, and we decide we call that we call we call that reality. So we as humans have agreed, in order to survive together, we've had to agree on what reality is and what's true and what's false and the way in which we see things. If we didn't, we wouldn't be able to communicate. And then people that don't see the way in which we collectively see, we call them mad or insane, and we say there's something wrong with their brain, which in terms of our society, that's okay to say that. We can call them mentally ill and we can call them crazy. It's not truth, but we can call them that because it's different from the collective brain that's producing a particular world and a particular reality. But it doesn't mean that what they're saying is more or less true than what we're seeing. It's just that more of us believe our reality. But everyone has like tiny different versions of their reality, the collective reality. So everyone sees it slightly different. So yeah, so people with mental illness or schizophrenia could be seeing different dimensions. they could be seeing like entities in bodies, like so if someone says that gets fixated on particular people's particular behavior, they could be seeing entities, they could be seeing all types of things. But it's their brain which is open or different, which is seeing these different realities. It doesn't mean that they're fiction and they're made up. It's just as much fiction as what we're seeing. But we all collectively believe in our reality. So everyone's like they're making you feel like your world is real. So you look for people that make you feel like your world is real and believe in similar worlds as you. So you look for people that have similar, like, so some people could call us mentally insane. I kind of forget that because I'm so used to non-duality in this subject. I've done it for so long. I kind of forget that it's really insane what we say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they would see us as, I'm sure there's some people and even some therapists or psychologists that would see us as having some sort of mental disorder, a dissociative disorder or some form of, and maybe grandiose, because we talk about something called enlightenment.
Yeah. I did notice that actually. Yeah, I remembered like I took like a psych class and they were talking about serial killers and I think they call it detachment disorder or something like that.
Yeah.
I just remember them using the term detachment to describe serial killers, and I was taking a Buddhism class as well, and the Buddha was talking about detachment. I just sound like, is the Buddha a serial killer? Is he? Maybe he was just a deranged lunatic. I don't know. But,
yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, did I interrupt you?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is. Yeah, and so and this is something that I think I come across as more sane than I am in these talks, because we've got a fixed subject in which we're talking about, and but my mind, I don't really believe in anything that's good and bad, and if you really, really take that on board, that I'm saying that I don't really believe in anything that's good and bad, like I can relatively speak, so I can sound as if I'm sane to everybody and say it's bad if the neighbour goes out and kills a cat, but I also have this other perspective that knows that I can't decipher if that's good or bad. I don't know if that's good or bad. That from a bigger perspective, it's bad in what we determine as our sane reality, but I don't know what it is. Like even with politics, like I tend to be a little bit left on this left wing, but even in politics, like I don't even really, like I talk as if I, like that's what my character thinks, and it thinks that there's somebody like Donald Trump is bad, but I also don't know the effect that's having. I also don't know, and I don't see him like as bad really. And that sounds like a philosophy, but it's actually like an internal way of viewing things. So it also means I can't really be angry with him. I don't really feel anger towards him. Like I can feel upset about these things, and I feel repulsed by sometimes the things they say and do, but at the same time there's nothing that's good or bad. Like we don't know what happens to our society if we take out the sociopath. We don't know the result of that.
Yeah.
It's impossible. And that really is more in line with the truth than it is to believe that you are good or that you are bad. it's just so out of control, that, because it really can wreck our society if everyone really comprehended that. Because then we're all living by all these moral protocols. So what would that do? Like, we're all afraid of what it would do. It would like unleash all these sociopaths or psychopaths or narcissists. But also we're afraid of us. Like, what would it unleash in us? Like, what would I do if I totally gave up on the notion of good and bad? Like, what is my possibility if I really gave up on that concept?
Yeah, even I like in this moment, I kind of, just being open to that possibility. It's kind of a contracted feeling. Um,
Yeah,
hmm,
yeah. It's often because of fear of others.
uh,
But on the same level, like, waking up doesn't mean that you lose that on the human level, but it's just playing with these ideas and seeing, like, what we attach to, like what we are attached to, like what we really fundamentally believe. And a lot of the time, our two biggest things that we believe in is good and bad over everything else. And
yeah,
like, you could even associate that with life and death. Like, living is good and death is bad, and we hold so tightly to that. And it's just questioning it. And then at the end of the day, like, our body still opt to do the good thing. It knows the good thing, but it's just playing with that, and it can be scary when you begin to play with that. And I think Osho was really amazing and really brave in that he really fucked with people's minds. Like, I know some people would think it's really bad, but he really, like, allowed people to that he had this community where he really allowed people to express that.
yeah.
I think I just have to let the dog into the garden. I don't know. And he was really brave. I mean, and we don't know what happened to Osho. I think there's a good possibility that he was killed.
Hmm.
We don't know. It could also be conspiracy theory as well. But he created this community where he really allowed people to do really extreme things. Like, if you've ever seen any of, like, I saw some recordings of these big, like, sex activity things where people were, like, acting out all types of weird
Hmm.
things. I don't know if you saw any of that.
No, no, I don't think I had.
Like, really aggressive and really violent, and also really soft and really sweet. But it's really experimental stuff. It's really crossing the boundaries, and um, yeah, and especially in the 60s and 70s and 80s.
It's funny. I guess that it's easy for me to, because what you were saying about, say, Trump, for example. Yeah, I lean uh, left, like kind of center left. But I feel similar. It's almost like I say, it's almost like I'm watching a TV show uh,
Yeah,
when I'm looking at politics. Like, there's just kind of a, I don't know, it's an investment, but it's just like I'm playing the game of investment. Like it's almost like watching, I don't know, Game of Thrones or something, where I mean, there's an investment just to kind of play that role, but like deep down, there is kind of a, yeah, like this is all just kind of a play. It's all just yeah, just part of the movie. Um,
yeah,
that's kind of a helpful perspective to take. I don't how do you say? I don't get all knotted up around politics anymore because of that. But
yeah,
I guess I don't know, from the way we're talking now, like maybe that's a good way to kind of look at everything. I don't
yeah.
know.
Yeah, and
life
that's
in
and
general.
yeah, and that's what I think non-duality does, and this subject does, is it's relaxing the mind.
Mm,
And then as the mind gets relaxed, the seeking dissipates, and then there is another possibility, this shift that happens, this shift of perspective. And it doesn't always have to be that way. Like someone like Eckhart Tolle like went into absolute suffering and contraction, and then there was a shift.
yeah.
So there's like everything contradicts itself in the end. But it like if you think about it, well, like we forget what it was like when we started in this subject. But if you think, like if I think about like today when I was at the hairdresser's, I was listening to the woman talk, and they have so many type views on everything. Like they were being really judgmental about the royal family. It was like everyone in England's talking about the royal family at the moment, and like really like tight and really judgmental, and like you can see that like even though there's enjoyment in there and judgment, you can see that there is a lot of seeking there and a lot of illusion that's going on there.
Mm,
And it would be impossible to speak about this with them. They would just think that I was absolutely insane, or they would just get really, really angry. Um, and it's just a reaction that would happen in the mind. It would be like I was attacking them, or that I was insulting them, or they would feel scared of me, that they wouldn't respond well.
mm,
And and we forget that once we've been into this subject for like 5 or 10 years, like how open our mind has become.
mm.
And it's not the mind that becomes enlightened, but it's almost like there has to be a dissipation of involvement in it. It's the mind is just seen as something that's happening. It's not invested in like it was before. Like they were getting so upset just because someone they don't even know quit a royal family, and they think it was rude to the royal family, and why should they as taxpayers pay for this or that, and they're so like angry and outraged by it, and it's so irrelevant, but to them it's like important. And then if
Mm,
someone disagrees with that, it's seen as an attack on them. Like it's, and they're so involved in their story and their life.
mm.
And then as you get into this subject, like everything becomes less and less important. There's seen, there's less suffering around things, but it also gets deeper and deeper, because you also begin to question the fundamentals of being human, which is quite an intense thing.
Yeah, I did. Just, yeah, I was just thinking, like, yeah, if I told someone, that this whole politics thing is a soap opera, if I said that to the wrong person out here, yeah, that could. How dare you? This is life and death. Literally, lives are on the line. That kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
But yeah, I guess that is kind of. Yeah, I guess politics is a good start. But yeah, my day to day, there's still I don't know, quite a bit of investment, like I guess when I get a little bit closer to say, how do I pay rent? How do
yeah,
I, how
yeah,
do I advance myself in my career, in my relationships, once it starts getting more personal,
yeah,
um, yeah, those are a lot of beliefs around that have yet to drop. I
yeah,
see there's still a little bit of investment there.
yeah.
Uh,
And predominantly our investment is because we believe that life is logical rather than magical.
hmm,
So if you believe that it's your job to pay this like ongoing rent that you have to pay every month, and that
yeah,
you have to find money for, then this becomes, a heavy weight, a heavy burden. Like it's an idea that you've got to produce this money, and you've got to endlessly do it until you die. And and then everybody else is stressing out about it, and there's all these different ideas that and we've got to have a certain amount of things and look a certain way. And the trick to it is seeing that it happens magically. Like, so
hmm,
you the most important thing is changing your view to it. Just like I was telling you about this lady that I knew that drank poison to, she really believed that it wouldn't hurt her, and it didn't. Like it's the same with the rent, seeing that it's not your job to produce the rent, like, and really trusting that it will come, it will happen. But it's such a step into madness. That's madness in our society.
Yeah.
It's
It really is.
madness.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and there's like this. Okay. So just to put it in like just a context, like that's currently happening right now. There's this play that I got an audition for in San Diego, and on paper it sounds so interesting. It's actually kind of like this part of this trilogy based on the Trimurti, right? There's three plays, one about Vishnu, one about Brahma, one about the Lord Shiva, and
Yeah.
yeah, this one's about Shiva, but it is the most pretentious schlock I've ever read. It's so goddamn pretentious, and it's meandering, and it goes absolutely nowhere. And but sorry, but
But people
but
like to see it.
I guess yeah, people like to yeah, just sniff their own farts and feel very cultured. Oh wow, yeah, I'm really learning about it. Someone else's. It, I don't know. It. I mean, I guess it's not the worst thing I've ever read, but it also goes nowhere. It strikes me in no way, shape, or form. But there is this like this should that comes up around it. Like I
Yeah.
should be working my ass off to get this down and to really learn these lines and to get a good product out because I have a rent to pay, I have a career to advance, and but yeah, I find no joy in it, and yeah, it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe at the same time, like I also find that one of my things is like I'm more afraid of success than I am of failure. I
Yeah.
also notice that as well. So I
Yeah.
don't know. Maybe I'm just fooling myself and telling myself that the like I don't like this at all, and I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I was
Uh,
thinking that as well. There could be other, like, complex dynamics that go on in that as well.
well,
Um,
uh,
yeah, because the mind is amazing in the way that it manifests.
yeah.
And it's all down to the body, like feeling the body. The body knows. So it knows when you're bullshitting.
Hmm.
Like it knows um, when it's out of line. But deep down it knows. Like, so if you imagined, like, and there's also nothing wrong with wanting to pay your rent. Like that's not a wrong reason to do it. It's just seeing, like, does it make you vibrate, the idea of acting in that.
No,
Yeah.
but I guess it's well, what's coming up now is like it doesn't. But if I let this go, then ooh, yeah, it's just a jump into the unknown. Well, what else could come? Like if I don't take this opportunity, who
Yeah.
knows if there's going to be another one, or a better one. Maybe it'll be worse.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's what it is. Yeah, the uncertainty of if I turn this down, what'll, even though, I've always been held, like,
Yeah.
the more I go into this thing, the more, like, this whole non-duality business, it's like
Yeah.
I am seeing more and more, like, there have been times when, the rent is due and I'm down to my last, few dollars and I still don't go along with the should and the contraction.
Yeah.
And suddenly there's just a miracle.
Yeah.
I just book something out of the blue and
Yeah.
or I get a paycheck that I didn't realize I was supposed to be getting, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
because the show's doing well in Saudi Arabia. And hmm,
Yeah. And that's exactly it. Like like letting go into that, And then also, it's also okay to do something because you want money. Like that can also have a really beautiful vibration, like not out of fear.
Yeah.
And also, if you do make a decision out of fear, that's okay too. But also doing something for money can have a beautiful vibration as well.
Money can have a beautiful vibration.
Yeah, doing something for money can have a beautiful vibration. Like, so if you, like, in a way, you are motivated to act in order to receive money.
Yeah.
So, and it can have something really positive in it, like doing something for money. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't always have to be negative. So sometimes we can also have a block just around doing something for money because we think we shouldn't as well.
Yeah. No, I know. I see what you mean now. Yeah. Yeah. I did, I actually, I don't, I think since the last time we talked, I did book a national commercial, which was a lot of fun. And
Oh yeah.
yeah, that was purely a money thing,
Yeah.
wasn't exactly an Oscar winner or anything like that,
Yeah.
but it was, yeah,
And you still
it was
enjoyed
fun
it.
to just, I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just spending a day making money.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's just, hmm.
Maybe it's time for me to go now. I've just realised I'm 40 minutes over what I normally talk.
Oh my God. Yeah,
I normally talk
sorry.
till 8 o'clock French time, and
Yeah.
it's now 8:40. I must have been on like nearly 3 hours.
Wow. Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, that's something.
Well, yeah. Well, thanks for extending the talk. This has been incredibly helpful.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it's always lovely to speak with you.
Yeah, you as well. You as well.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle.
All right. You
Bye.
take care, huh?
So thanks, guys. I realised that I went a lot over today, but I enjoyed speaking to you all. So I shall see you on Sunday at 6 p.m. French time. I'm going to start traveling again soon, so there might be some times that I don't make it. So just remember to check the website. Okay, guys. People, not guys. People. I got told off, and then I made fun of someone else for saying guys one time. This is an old, dated, and sexist comment, guys. We want to say people, human beings. Goodbye, human beings. Live long and prosper.